You are listening to Claret Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live. Hello, welcome to the Claret Blue podcast, the first one in front of a live studio audience. Thank you very much for coming. Give yourself a round of applause, first of all. Thank you. I'm your host, Dan Robertson, for this evening. I'm joined, first of all, by Guillaume Balaguer's new best friend, John Townley. John, you okay? You nervous?
I'm very nervous. It's nice to see so many faces, but yeah, I'm a bit shy today. So.
Ash, friend of the Cameron Archer family, as we all know.
Great, yeah.
Is he alright, Cam?
Cam's sound, his family's sound as well, yeah, all good.
You alright as well?
Yeah, fine, mate, yeah, loving it.
In the corner, he's got a big bald head. He's kissed and made up with Martin O'Neill. It's Matt Kendrick. Matt, are you alright?
I'm alright, yeah. I was nervous about tonight, but now me and Martin have got over our electrical storm. I can fight the world, to be honest. I can take anything on, I hope. So, we're doing a kind of mid-season review. Obviously, the World Cup break gives us the opportunity to kind of reflect on what's been so far. I'm not going to talk too much about Steven Gerrard's start because, let's face it, it was pretty horrific. But let's rewind back to Bournemouth. John, you and me did the podcast after that game and we were pretty angry, I think it's fair to say. I think I said Gerrard was on thin ice, which translation is I think he'll be sacked quite soon, but I probably couldn't say that back then. You were pretty angry as well. Yeah,
I'm sure everyone was in the room as well. It was one of those where in the pre-season we all said Gerrard will get his own players. He has a full pre-season. Almost at the back end of last season, even when we didn't get the results we wanted, we lost to Watford, didn't we? We lost to different teams that we should have been beating. But we gave him that leniency, I thought, because of, as I say, the pre-season, the players that he might bring in. But the Bournemouth form was a shocker. It was a real sort of eye-opener of, oh no, that's the problem. And it was a bit knee-jerk to be saying, I don't know, Gerrard, you know, where's his future, blah, 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 because it's only the first game. But I think Villa fans, we all knew something wasn't right. And even to say, we'll go on to it, the Everton game after we won, but we made hard work of it. But no, that Bournemouth game was a real, okay, that's an issue. And, you know, we had Carlos, Kamara, that was the whole team. It was there. So no, real problem that was. And, yeah, what came after wasn't a surprise to me.
Given the benefit of the doubt, the first game of the season, okay, but things didn't improve. And looking at what Unai's doing now, the players are there, there's a plan there now, and hopefully we can kick on. But yeah, disastrous appointment looking back.
Would you go as far to say disastrous, Matt, as well?
I don't know, I got probably seduced quite early on as Gerrard's first press conference, because I thought he spoke really, really well. I thought he was probably more respectful to Aston Villa in that press conference than he was for the rest of his reign. I thought he pitched it quite well in terms of having respect for the stature of the club, having respect for the fact that Aston Villa had taken a chance on him, because it was a chance. And even in his first couple of post-match press conferences, I thought he's seen the game that we've seen. Obviously got the new manager bounce, and it looked to be exciting, but then it just started to unravel, and managers almost go through a kind of a set script, don't they? And you could just see that. And there was a couple of times where he threw players under the bus, and there just weren't any solutions. And I'm just glad that that the rain ended in time, in enough time to give us some hope that we can not only survive this season, but we can hopefully prosper and build something lasting, rather than this chop, change mentality that we've had for too long.
Changing the captaincy as well was a thing that Gerrard kind of brought upon himself as a problem that probably didn't exist. I mean, we've got, 100 people in here tonight. Is there anyone with a show of hands that thought that was the right decision to change Darwin? Yeah, nobody. What was the point of that? John McGinn, probably not the right choice either, but I'm not going to see him kind of hammer the players in the first half of the season, but it's just a pointless kind of exercise of, I'm going to put my stamp on it, but ultimately blew up in his face and became a bigger talking point than it needed to be.
Yeah, there was rumours beforehand, as Gerrard was appointed, that he wanted to make the change then. Back in November, I think it was Gary McAllister maybe said, no, wait for the end of the season. And the question we kept asking him at the press conferences, who's going to be a captain? He made a decision yet? And he kept teasing so long, no, not made it yet. I just thought the timing of it, week before the season, he could have nipped it in the bud, start of July, go have a pre-season with McGinn as your man. But looking back, yeah, it's not really a good call, to be honest. I think it's affected John as well, with his performances, and I think that Tyrone's reacted really well to it, hasn't he, really? He's been a standout this year, so...
Probably our best player so far.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, looking back, it probably worked in his favour, has it? I don't know. But, yeah, bad call, really. A bit naivety. It's a bit naive from the manager to do that, but he wanted to do it his own way. He chose John and his man, and didn't really work.
Yeah, and I think it was just Gerrard wanting to say, I run this place here. I decide who my captain is. And I think he probably, I don't want us to write off McGinn yet. I think he's done enough for us. I'm not saying we have keep players for sentimental reasons when we're trying to move forward, but I think McGinn's done enough to at least earn a fair crack under Emery, and I think he will get one. But I think Gerrard saw a little bit of himself in McGinn, this kind of all-action leader. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think people who have listened to the podcast, thanks by the way, people who have listened to the podcast will know what I think of Tyrone Mings, not only as a leader on the pitch, but as an ambassador away from the pitch as well. Somebody who I like to have associated with our football club. I don't think it was a decision that needed to be made. I'm still, Ash would have better information than me because he's actually allowed down there a little bit closer than I am nowadays. But I still wonder if it was Gerrard trying to get Mings out of the football club and wasn't able to quite force the issue. I'm glad that hasn't happened. I'm glad that it was Gerrard who left the club before Tyrone Mings who left the club.
We'll kind of skip over the start of the season. I said there's no point going into it game by game, but August, that Bolton Cup game was pretty much a disaster all round. John, we were kind of preparing for this before we started, and you went to the Arsenal game, I think, to cover it for us, and you were in the press conference for the first or second time of that season, or this season, and you said that was kind of the first time you got Gerrard kind of come across as stuff, basically.
Yeah, obviously Ash goes to most of the games. I was at the West Ham game, which I believe was the third game, maybe fourth game of the season.
Yeah.
Fourth game after Palace. And in the Arsenal game as well, he almost, I don't know if it hit him that everything was going so badly wrong and he could be sacked. It almost felt as if he was a bit immune to it, in my opinion. Yeah. And the Arsenal game was tricky because it was almost like a free hit in a way, because we were so close to getting a point against a team who is obviously now top of the league by a fair distance now. But he was visibly really annoyed after that game. And after the West Ham one, we just lost to a team who hadn't scored in the Premier League, let alone picked up a point. And he was almost taking questions and, we'll go to Arsenal, we'll give him a fair crack. But it was like, we've been shocking for the last first four games of the season. Don't know if it hit him, but then the Arsenal one, I think it did. And after that, it was, so we'll go on, it was back to basics against Man City, then Southampton, we got results, but again,
at what cost?
Where are we going? There was conversations after them, but particularly the Arsenal game for me was the almost tipping point. We didn't, play horrendous, but it was the emotion after the game and the fans as well. Where are we going with this? Is it too early to change? Probably not.
It all fell apart at Fulham, didn't it? That was the one. But perhaps we've been relieved of his duty sooner than that. I spent a lot of time with Steven. I got sucked into it as well. Okay, maybe we'll win one. We played well against Man City, played well against Chelsea that first half, and I was kind of sucked into it as well, being around him so much and listening to him all the time.
You're a friend of the family,
what was I then?
Sorry,
gone.
Put my hand up next time, sorry, point of order, sorry.
Well, yeah, if I didn't say it from a fan's perspective, I had my reporter hat on and I couldn't be too strong on him. Maybe I should have done that, but looking back, it just was never going to work, and here we are.
I don't think they were wrong to start the season with Gerrard. We sat in the room, kind of 20 yards from here, or 20 yards, a bit further. A long Matty Cash throw from here in the summer, saying that it was. We still thought, even we probably expected more signings then, but with Kamara and Carlos, you go back through trawl back through our predictions, and okay, we are naive, and you don't come to us for insight. But we thought that Villa would finish somewhere between 8th and 12th. So why would the club necessarily make that change when they've got a fan base on strings that think we can finish somewhere between 8th and 12th?
There was no long-term plan, was there? Yeah. The way I saw it was Gerrard knew he was in trouble after the Arsenal game. Let's go back to basics. Got the point against City, which is obviously good. But then it was, let's get to this almost mini pre-season or whatever you want to call it now in the winter break to save my job. And it's, for the long-term ambition of Aston Villa to keep Gerrard in a job and let him hone his playing style with Neil Critchley. I don't think that's for the benefit of Aston Villa long-term. I'm sure you guys agree. And obviously Michael Beale leaving in the summer wasn't brilliant, but I said it before, should a Premier League team or a club that's trying to get in European football appoint a manager who's said in an interview, my number 2 is as important as me, if not more important, and he might leave at some point in the season, but give me the job. That didn't make sense to me at the start, and that was always a worry. And as we found out, come the Arsenal game, come Man City, back to basics, playing for points up until that stage of the season that we're now in. It's probably a good thing that we're not sucked into a position where we have now we've got Gerrard and Critchley trying to hone a playing style. There's no. I asked Gerrard about Critchley previously as well, and there was no sort of. You want a proper answer and a proper, here's what he's brought, and instead it was very much just, he's settled well. And you want more than that, because you say, now we've got Emery, and as your question was earlier, Dan, if that's the level we could attract, it almost feels like we wasted a year for a project that's, other people at the club wanted to pursue. So maybe lessons learned as well. That's what we've probably got fouled as, I suppose.
Yeah, we talked a lot, didn't we, on the podcast about Arsenal and this comparison to Arteta, but that was a totally different kettle of fish, really, and the more realistic kind of comparison was Newcastle, and what they did, appointing Eddie Howe was a kind of smart appointment, spent money but not rashly, and they're bottom of the league, and then within a year they're third in the league or wherever they are now. That's the more realistic thing, and that's what, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, that's what you want Emery to do. Not that we're as bad as Newcastle in terms of being bottom of the league, but we need that kind of level of improvement in 12 months' time. I want to be sat here doing another one of these in a year's time, talking about us improving a lot, not, we've sacked yet another manager.
100%. The players are bought into it in Newcastle as well. I think in the changing room under Gerrard, I think it was quite fractured, wasn't it? The Ming stuff, and your Sanson's not getting a kick. So, but look what they're doing now. The reaction they've had in 2 weeks. Emery's been there 2 weeks. It's been incredible. The players are all loving it as well, and they're buying into it straight away. So, yeah. He's already working wonders already. Not
specifically about Gerrard being sacked, because obviously we all know it was the right decision, but what was it kind of like for us, because we were doing the podcast together and you two were at Craven Cottage, so just talk us through that night for you two.
Well, when the team sheet was announced, Matty Cash was dropped on it as well, and it was just a mess from start to finish. The statement dropped at 11:15, wasn't it?
We were on the tube, weren't we?
Yeah, it was on the tube, dashing round. They've done it. No mess in there from the owners. It just all turned really ugly. The fans chanting towards him as well, and Gerrard not even acknowledging the fans, just walking off. I think he knew his days were numbered then. It's very ugly scenes, The writing was on the wall. After that, there's no coming back, given the performance we've seen there and the manner of it and the players, and not nice. It was
the manner of it. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. That was the main point, and Sawiris leaving before the end. I think we all know after that there's going to be a decision made, and how quickly we actually appointed Emery, I was a bit surprised at. Obviously we keep things under wraps, which is probably a good thing, but there was obviously talks with Amorim for Sporting, and then Emery seemed to be in the background, didn't it, almost as if he was being lined up. So we did that quickly, which is probably a good thing. We bumped into a few people in the corporate, but in Fuller, sat next to Nassef. He said he wasn't happy at all. And he made the call that night. We've
reached the point. This is the point of no return. And in the olden days, the Evening Mail would have cracked the crest in half. It was that kind of it was that kind of crisis point. So as soon as you're cracking a crest, I don't write so much anymore. I spout my usual stuff on here, but I don't get to write so much. But when it's manager sacking time, normally kind of dig me back out again, don't they? So I kind of get the quill back out, and it was manager sacking time, and we'd seen all the build up to it. We'd seen the manager's demeanour in press conferences. We'd seen the away fans. When the away fans turn, to me, that's the biggest barometer. We can see all the kind of noise and fallout on social media, but it's difficult to judge. But when the away fans go, the away fans are sticking around in the pocket and travelling the length and breadth of the country all the time. You just know he just follows the same pattern. So I think I wanted to finish, didn't I? I wanted to go and have a cup of tea or something, or whatever I was doing.
Feeling it was going to happen.
Yeah, Dan was like, "Come on, you must have another crap analogy about supermarkets or something." So we kept stringing it along, and it was like, how did we describe it? Lancing the boil, I think, or something like that. It was just a feeling that, thank God, isn't it, really? Thank God, we don't know what's coming next, but we know that we don't like that. Here we are again, investing all our hopes and all our expectations in the new guy. We're in the honeymoon period. We're all in love with him, and then he gets us knocked out of the cup. So we have our first tiff, but we're in that place again, aren't we now, where we just if it can't be him, what, you know, how many times we're going to go through this cycle? It's got to be him, Dan. It really has.
Obviously, it is Emery that we end up with, but we have that kind of managerial merry-go-round with Pochettino and Tuchel and Brendan Rodgers or whoever else. I think, John, you and me did the podcast when he was announced on the evening of, I think, and you kind of said something like it's the best case scenario we could have hoped for. Unai Emery, he was like the most realistic choice out of those.
Yeah.
And you were like the most excited I've ever seen you.
The best case scenario for me. I'm sure most people in the room would agree with that. I think, you know, you look at someone like Pochettino or Tuchel even, in my opinion, he's in that elite bracket. You don't need to rank them 1, 2 or 3, but he's there on his CV, what he's done in the game.
If you had to rank him, where would he go?
Number 1. For what he's done in the game, for his CV, for the clubs he's worked at as well. He doesn't come across to me anyway as someone who would do 2 good years at Villa and all of a sudden Tottenham want Emery. I don't think he'd necessarily jump ship, or how he might think about it, but he's not that sort. Do you know what I mean? Whereas those other managers who have, you know, I know Emery's done PSG and Arsenal, but his best experiences in football have been with Sevilla and Villarreal, and I'm not saying we're a club that wants to be in that level in terms of Europe. And I feel like he can bring that, and obviously he's done it before, and it's like a marriage that should work, and, you know, touch wood it will, but everything there is made for it to happen. I feel like we've got everything as a club at the moment. The fan base, the away following, that's showed in the last couple of weeks. The academy setup's working. We've even got a new badge next year. The one thing we haven't had is that genuine elite manager for the past 10 years, and no criticism to any manager that we've had in that time, but having that CV that he's got and where we are as a club at the moment, he just seems like the guy that can bring it forward, and that's not based off the last 2 results or the last 3 performances or whatever. I'm sure everyone will say he is, you know, the calibre that we couldn't have got in the past 10 years. And now that we've got him, it really, as Matt says, if it's not now, I don't know when it is. You know,
we rarely see Nassef in the public domain, but he made a point to the fans, to the club. He's my man. He's going to transform us, and so far it's working. So he went out to get him. Yeah, very, very quick appointment, wasn't it? Come out of the blue, sounded him out and got it done. So no messing from the owners, who've been brilliant, haven't they?
I mentioned the podcast with Guillaume Balaguer that you did at the start, and I said, you know, you were buzzing when Emery was appointed. I think you went up another level after that Guillaume Balaguer interview.
Yeah.
What was the kind of the key takeaway from that for you?
I think the key takeaway is, obviously, Guillaume himself. I don't know if everyone's watched the podcast. If you haven't, please do. Little plug. He knows him really well, and the main thing that he said to us, was it's his personality, his characteristics. At Arsenal, he felt as if it didn't work because he didn't really get the promises that Arsenal, you know, gave him, and he needs something to build. And if fans see something that's like, oh, why has he done that? Why has he subbed that player? Or why is he not playing this one? Just go with it. Give him that pay. You know, we need to, as fans, be patient. And we probably said this about Gerrard, right? Yeah. But again, this is someone who has a CV that we haven't seen before at Villa Park for, you know, donkey's years. So he's got everything. We need to give him that time and enough, you know, whether it's money or whatever it is, to make him build something. Because again, if he can't, I don't know who it is. I don't know the answer. But Guillaume was, it's his tactics, his personality, how he engages with players. He can speak 5 languages. Everything's there. You know, I can't speak highly enough of the appointment itself and Emery as a coach and manager, and his backroom team as well. All the analysis and statistics that they use, coming down at half time, showing videos to players and saying he needs to be doing this. We'll go on to it, but like the Man United one, for example, with 2-1 down. United score a goal in half time. The classic thing for Villa to do is lose that game 3-2. Yeah. But what do? The stats guys come down at half time. Here's what we need to do in the second half. First thing Leon Bailey does is have a shot. Second thing we do is Jacob Ramsey scores, and the game's won. Against Man United, we haven't done that for 25 years. That's the difference, and that's in Emery's first game. So we're already seeing the benefits of his appointment. But yeah, really bright future if he can, just say, be given that patience, and fans. We can always get on someone's back because we're football fans. We pay hard. We pay a lot of money, to support the club. But let's be patient with it. Let's back his decisions, and I don't think we can go far wrong with that.
You've gone big on Emery, haven't you? You're going to look a bit of a if it goes wrong. I don't want to mention the Alan Danks kind of era too much because obviously it's before Emery, but we have the highs of Brentford and then the lows of Newcastle, and that kind of again reinforces that point of, oh my God, look how far Newcastle have gone up. What the hell? But yeah, it's important if you do get the appointment right, and John, you just made a great case for Emery. It should work, and we've talked a lot about like, oh, this could be the one if you as a player take on board what he tells you should improve. So like I said, I want to be sitting here in 12 months' time talking about how far Villa have progressed already, and I just hope it's not this kind of new manager balance that we're all getting carried away with.
On the Aaron Dank stuff, it must be one of the happiest afternoons down there for a long while, wasn't it? That 4-0 Brentford. And backing up again with the Manchester United result, because Villa Park has been a happy place for a long time. Even you didn't like going down, did you, under Gerrard?
Don't remember the but yeah, we talked about the podcast
about the connection
as well.
and stuff.
Being a slog. So,
Yeah.
I've got Villa on Sunday. I've got to work my weekend around that, and now it's like, Villa in 3 weeks. I can't wait to get back.
That's what it's about, isn't it? And that's what Unai's bringing. The players are buying into it. The fans are. And hopefully we're on that upward curve now.
But on about like me and you, like the grumpy, but I don't know what they're called. Is it Statler and Waldorf in the Muppets? The two old men in the box who just moan relentlessly, entertain us, that kind of stuff. I can't wait till Boxing Day, and it's not because I'm going to get me Mr. T doll or whatever. It's because watching Villa, going back to Villa Park, is now an exciting prospect again. I don't know. Take a straw pile in the room. I'm club over country all the time. But the fact that he's been able to, and listen, we could end up with egg on our face. It could all go and we could be moaning again and ushering him out the door and bringing the next one in. But the fact that he's been able to do that so quickly in a season that was lacking direction. I've said this before, and I've said this to many people I bump into and bore with Aston Villa opinions over the last few weeks, that I'm convinced that he's got a 4.5 year contract, is that right? I'm convinced that 3 years from now, if we're able to kind of roll with those punches and kind of weather the storm of, like I say, getting knocked out of the cup the other week, that was a big setback when we don't have many opportunities to actually go and win something. If we can trust him, and it's really hard as a fan base, it's really hard as a board and as a football club. If we can trust him, I'm convinced we'll be in a better place in terms of league position, and we'll be a bit better place in terms of the future and the infrastructure of our club. But it's a massive leap of faith because we've been sold this dream. We've got 2 months without being beaten, haven't we? So let's just enjoy the next 2 months and then see what they deliver in the new year.
On the press conference, Ash, what was it actually like? Again, it's another new manager for you to meet. What is he like, kind of away from the cameras, kind of thing?
It was exactly the same. It was in the director's suite in the Trinity Road stand. Not even a year since Gerrard's one. All Unai's family was there as well. His son was there, his brother. But yeah, he spoke well, wasn't it? Really, the key takeaway from that, we didn't hear too much from Christian Purslow, whereas the Gerrard one, it was very.
I loved it.
He was very up for that one. Whereas this time, he played more of a back seat with that one, given it is Nassef's appointment. So, but yeah, in general, Unai understood me, which I didn't expect at all. I spoke really slow, but he got me an answer, and. So I was buzzing with that. That was my takeaway. That's my little win.
Say what?
Yeah. But yeah, he was fine. Give you all the answers he needed, really. But yeah, he was very similar to last year's. Although this time Christian didn't say too much.
Fast forward to Man United a little bit, kind of getting rid of that hoodoo again. We've talked about it every year we've done the podcast. So Man United at home, is this finally the year we do it? You and me, John, weren't even born the last time we beat Man United. Me, just about. You definitely not. But nice to just get that record out of the way, isn't it? It's first game. I think Matt, you said on a show that I'm almost kind of willing to write off the first 3 games of Emery's era because it's a difficult start and kind of give him this break, and then we'll see where we are in the new year. But it was a good start, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was prepared to write off the first 3 games till we had that capitulation at Old Trafford. It was my son's first proper away match, so I won't forgive you for that, Unai, unless you bring us some silverware in European football quickly. But no, it was not just. I think I might have been speaking to you, Ash, or speaking to Dan's dad earlier, and it was more from the United game for me. It was more than a new manager bounce. It was a very quickly assembled but very well followed strategy. Hearts have been in the mouth in terms of the way he wants to build up so patiently from the back. We've already seen a couple of times at Brighton in the first couple of minutes at the weekend. At Old Trafford, there's a couple of times where Robin Olsen's probably not booked his place in the Aston Villa Hall of Fame, but he's backed the players. He's seen enough in those players to say, this is the way we're going to play, and it's going to be tense at times, but we're going to do it. We're going to be patient. It might not be the most scintillating football at times, and we've been warned this from pundits and other fans that Emery ball's not going to be the most exciting football. I'm really not that fussed about exciting football. I want to see winning football. I want to turn up at Villa Park, old man alert. I used to go to Villa Park in the 90s every week thinking that we would win, regardless of who we played. And I know we're not going to win, and I knew then we weren't going to win every single week. But if we can go to Villa Park and think that we're going to be competitive. And if that means that he plays this patient style of football that he's almost kind of just lulling teams in before bang, you pick your opportunity, and then you go and kind of make the most of that. I'm all for it, and I think for him to do that with the language barrier, which I think has probably been overinflated, because I think the bits of communication that I've seen from him have been good. I work with Ashley Priest, so I know it's not, English is not always that easy. But for him to do that and to communicate that message so quickly, and for us to see the fruits of it so quickly, it's encouraging. And we have so many times we're so fed up and so negative and so pessimistic and so cynical, me and you, most of our conversations, that let's just enjoy this little bit of, we've got somebody now who his CV says he can go and deliver good things. Let's just try and, like John says, be patient and see what he can do. 6
points out of 6 against two very good teams, two teams in the top 6 before we played them at least. And as Matt says, but he's doing that in the Emery way already. He isn't just playing to. We haven't beaten Man United through luck. We've beaten 3-1 through a well executed game plan. Brighton was the same, and yes, it wasn't particularly pretty in the last 40 minutes. But that's what we had to do to get the points. We're now 12th. Where are we? 3 points out of Europe. That's. Imagine saying that a couple of weeks ago.
Calm down, John.
But he's doing it. He's doing it his way already. Like, yes, we have to play it from the back, and we are making a couple of mistakes. But you got to roll. You got to roll with it. And where are we going to be in a couple of years if we're not trying to implement that style already?
Yeah.
You have to do it from day one, and we're not just trying to beat Man United and focusing on their left back. Let's target that and sit back and whatever. No, we'll play our way, and we got 6 points out of it, and we're not going to win every game. But if we can play his style, implement his own philosophy, bring in his own players, if he has to, develop the ones that we've already got, as he's made countless points about that already. Just quickly, I'm glad that he hasn't said, oh yeah, I want to bring in this player. I'm not saying Gerrard did do that, but I wasn't particularly pleased in his first press conference when he was saying, yeah, we're going to, in January, do this, and we're going to be backed, blah, blah, blah. Emery said the opposite. We've got a good squad. I want to develop these players because we've spent, where are we, 400 million since we got promoted. That's a lot of money. And to get where, 14th or 12th or wherever's the best finish so far. So yeah, it's looking good, but we need to say patience, and I think we'll get there. But yeah, it's a positive start, and I'm glad to we played the Emery way already. We've done the 4-2-2 and whatever it is out of possession or whatever. But yeah, it's not just 6 points. It was the way that we played that I was really impressed with. And yeah, we've made mistakes, but how are we supposed to learn if we don't try from the start? There needs to come a point. We can't just, in the 6-week break, train in his system or whatever it may be. You need to play competitive games, and we've already got that monkey off the back of no away win, beating Man United.
Yeah, come from behind.
Down done that since, what was the start? May 21, I think it was, against Tottenham. So those are already two big things that we've achieved, if you will, against two very good teams. Brighton have won the last 3 games as well, haven't they? So yeah, really positive start.
So next up is getting rid of the trophy drought. It's been 26, 27 years as well. I said I'd gloss over the Carabao Cup, but I'll mention it briefly. Matt, in the pre-season one we did, I think you said we'll win the FA Cup this year, which I mean we still might. We're still in it at least for now.
Not this year, next year.
But how annoying was that cup exit for you? So you were there as well.
I don't know, it's probably revert to the phrase that Martin O'Neill, the Monday morning quarterback, being wise after the event. Being wise after the event, a full-strength Villa team would probably have gone and won that match, but we decided not to play a full-strength Villa team. It was probably an impossible dream, wasn't it, to expect us to beat United home and away within a week. The game was there for the taking, but like John alluded to, Emery wants to play a certain way, and whether you're a regular first-team starter, said before, Martinez, with the exception of the first couple of minutes at Brighton, his distribution is normally bang on. He expects Robin Olsen to come in and play exactly the same way. I think that's hard when you're rusty because you've not played much first-team football and you're playing at Old Trafford, albeit what a crap place that is in terms of atmosphere. I know it's not an exclusive, but it's such a dead place. But you're playing at Old Trafford against a strong Manchester United team, and you're a rusty reserve team player who's got to come in and play that way straight from minute one. I think it was a missed opportunity, but I think, like I said, we're going to get these bumps in the road. Trust him, because he's got a fairly good cup pedigree. He's probably going to have a good cup pedigree, because when the FA Cup draw comes on, we're going to be drawn away to Manchester United again. So he's got chance to rectify it, but he's given us a little bit of belief back. So as much as I'm gutted, really, really gutted that one of two opportunities to win something has gone again, for the greater good, I think we'll get there with him. We did use it as, not that we need any more sticks to beat Gerrard with in the end, because the football and the results were enough, but we used it as a stick to beat Gerrard with the fact that he wasn't acknowledging the fans and that kind of thing. I wonder whether Emery has had the message that what I found interesting is we were kind of all moaning about Gerrard for disappearing down the tunnel, but Emery disappears every win, lose or draw, which at least is consistent. And I think he wants his players, when we've won, to take the acclaim. So I don't think when we've lost and he disappears down the tunnel, I don't think that's him hiding. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm very, very appreciative that when he does come out, he said it at Old Trafford, he said it at the weekend at Brighton, that they gave us energy. And I think that to me is the essence of being a football fan, that it becomes a mutual kind of appreciation society. I don't think we had that with the previous man. I think there's signs that we are going to get it with this current man.
I feel like he just has no ego. I'm not saying Gerrard did, but if you're winning against Man United at home in your first game, you've got every right to run at the whole end and give it a big, a Jurgen Klopp sort of style. He doesn't need to. Straight down the tunnel, let's debrief the players on what we did well and what we did wrong. And that's so refreshing. I don't think we'll see him kind of run on the pitch at all and sort of praise the fans. He does it, as you say, does it in the post-match presser. It just, he comes across as a man of sort of simple taste or whatever it may be. He does his job. Kind of goes home, almost like that sort of Bielsa sort of style. I don't know, in a very different way. At the same time, he coaches his team, and I think the players have got a week off this week. Yeah. Emery probably doesn't have a week off. He's probably working 24/7 on the next game and what comes next, and here's the drills that we're going to be planning. So, yeah, he seems to be like a workaholic and someone that really, takes everything into the club. He's absorbing everything, but he doesn't need to, go to the fans after the game. And even though he could, and he'd get a great reception, back. But no, there's nothing in it in terms of,
Just in terms of the formations and the style of play and stuff like that, I know you've talked a lot about it in the past, John, but it's not even like rocket science, is it, the stuff he's doing so far? Just like simple tweaks, playing your players in the right positions. Like, who would have thought that would work?
The formation it's playing at the moment, it's far too simple just to say 4-2-2-2, although that's how it looks on paper. It's strange because under Gerrard, I'm not trying to always compare to Gerrard, but how obviously we took over from. It was almost like I can't see what we're trying to do, but under Emery it's also I can't quite see what we've got, because it's so complex in a way. It's almost like two different extremes, and it works so well because out of possession we're sometimes a 5-4-1 or it's a low block and it's a high. We played really high against Man United, didn't we? But it seems to work really well for McGinn because he has shackles off. Danny Ings has played in that system with Southampton. Yep. Ollie Watkins doesn't have that burden of being the only striker. Buendia as well doesn't have to sit on the wing all game. It just works. And against Man United, like Bailey combining with Ramsey, it seems so easy in our heads. But I'm sure on the training pitch it's so much more complex and there's so many more intricacies that we can't appreciate as just football fans. But no, everything that he's done so far. I mean, when we appointed him, it was it's a 4-2-3-1 because that's what we did well against Brentford, and he played that in Sevilla. But no, it's the 4-2-2 at the moment anyway, from what he did with Villarreal. But he's an elite coach; he can change and adapt to the given situation, and on the ball, off the ball, it's going to be so fascinating to see. I think I said to Ash on every press conference, it's going to be interesting. You feel like you might learn something. Yeah,
playing with more patience now. The players are trusting it. He's kicking every ball as well. Unai on the touchline, you'll see him play that one. So he's guiding them. Where Gerrard didn't really do that with his players either. So yeah, like I said, the players are absolutely loving it, and yeah, the style we're all seeing it. There's a plan now. Whereas before there wasn't. It was hectic. They weren't playing. So now it's just great to see.
Just on the tactics, John, do you think that he's a manager who would, after doing something that's effective or doesn't work, do you think he's a manager who would actually receive a question on tactics and not see it as an insult or a slight? Because that's something that I've found in my many different relationships with managers, that you're only asking for information to try and explain to yourself and to explain to fans and readers why something's done a certain way, but managers almost see it as a kind of as a loaded bullet, that what you're getting at, what you're saying. But do you think that Emery would welcome that question and explain?
I do. Firstly, because he seems to live it. He loves his tactics, he loves his systems, he almost wants to express what he's been telling people on the training pitch. He's not trying to hide it, because he's so elite. It's almost as if, I know I can better the manager that I'm against, so I'm not giving away any secrets. But also in the Guillaume Balaguer interview we did, one of the first things that he mentioned was about exactly what you've just said. If the fans aren't sure, or if the journalists don't know exactly what's happening, ask him, because he will tell you. And again, his English isn't 100% brilliant that we'll understand absolutely everything that he's saying, and it's so intricate, his systems and every detail that he puts into the team. We might not understand it as well, but it just gives you that little insight that we might not have had previously. And as Matt says, a lot of managers will just keep that as almost like as you say, what are you trying to get at? But with Emery, it seems like he wants to, say not necessarily teach the fans what he's doing, but the way that he approaches it with the players, you must feel like he wants to, tell everyone his secrets, I suppose, because he's that level of manager.
And actually talked about kind of kicking every ball. I think we did a post, like a Facebook post about calling him like the conductor or something like that. He's got his orchestra and he'll instruct everything. Whether it's actually doing anything, whether the players are actually looking at it, as a fan, I look at that and go, he's involved, at least he's getting involved. I'd prefer that to panning to Steven Gerrard sat with his arm folded thinking, he don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, we've seen it now in the two games, the two wins he's had. The players are really, really enjoying playing for him. There's an identity now, whereas before there wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, the players, it's like a education for them. They're learning every day. They're taking a lot of information on board. There's long tactical meetings in Bodymoor Heath, but they're all buying into it, and we're seeing the fruits of that success now straight away.
I think finishing the top half has to be the aim, and again in the future that we want to be more than that, but let's take it one step at a time. I think there's so much traffic ahead of us, even though we are close to even 6th, but we have to limit those expectations at the moment. We can't be, even next season we can't be saying, all right, let's try and get Europe. That can be the aim, but if we don't, it's the top 6 plus Newcastle at the moment. It's so difficult to get anywhere near it. Chelsea are slipping up this season, but I don't think they'll be finishing 8th. They'll probably finish, top 6 at least. So yeah, this season, can we finish top 10? Because beyond that pack of top 6 plus Newcastle, who's better than us? Brighton, potentially. We've beaten them. Fulham played us off the park, but come on. And then who else? West Ham haven't had a great season, and Leicester were bottom at some stage, and now they're around where we are. So it's a really tight league. I feel like the second half of the season is almost the start of the season, but have you got a bit of an advantage almost? Because it's so tight. So yeah, top half for me is what we can achieve for sure, and also what the aim should be. If we can finish 10th, we haven't done that since 2011, I think it is now. So that's over. When we finish next season, that'll be over 10 years. So yeah, top half. An FA Cup run would be really good, because I don't want to sort of put a downer on it, but I do believe that Carabao Cup was probably the best chance we're going to win a cup.
Still fuming about that.
I am, because especially if the draw as well, City and Liverpool playing each other, but it's Man United and Newcastle and Man City. There's 3 teams there, and if we beat United, it would just be Newcastle and City left, which is really it's grinding my gears. But yeah, an FA Cup run and top 10 would be a really solid season, considering where we come from.
Yeah, I totally agree with John. Yeah, top 10's got to be the aim, and a cup run, hopefully a decent draw this time.
A cracking atmosphere at Villa Park every week, a few new chants, bit of excitement. And my son only wanting 1 burger rather than 2 burgers. That'd do me, to be honest.
We're going to kind of call it a day there for the first half of the podcast. We're going to have a little break for 15-20 minutes, get some raffle tickets. My mum is selling them over here, so it'd be nice. We haven't run out of the tickets, so they're just on scraps of paper now. So raffle tickets over here, there's loads of prizes, which we'll get to in the second half of the show. We'll do a Q&A session next with the guys in here as well. So thanks for watching this first bit if you're watching on the YouTube version. And we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you for listening to Claret Blue and Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your thoughts and comments. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.